My name is Bob Norton, and I'm your MC for this evening, and hopefully I won't make a lasting imprint on the crowd again by falling off the back of the stage, as they did a couple of years ago, but as you can see that they've put bars up here now, so that can't happen again. So those of you who were there a couple of years ago, that won't happen again tonight. I'd like to take care of a few housekeeping details first. If you have one of these tags under your chair, some of you will be challenged to see it, but it's, I look around the audience, a lot of gray hair out there, so I'm sure you can't see it, but it's a circular little NEC thing, and if it's under your chair, you're going to win a hat. Yeah, how about that? And you have to wait till the end to get it. So at the end of the banquet, you come up and you can pick up your hat. The other thing I'd like, a couple other announcements I'd like to make. Well, we got an unruly crowd here. The next announcement is that one of our members, that part of the crowd over there in the corner, got to quiet down a little bit. The next announcement is that one of our members has been selected to the position of coach of the 80 and over Team USA Olympic team, which will be playing the weekend of October 28th in Ottawa. And we'd all like to, he's not here, but give a big round of applause anyway to Hall of Famer Ken McKinnon. Although none of those guys are buying green bananas, they all hope to make that Ottawa tournament successfully. I also would like to thank very much those folks who made the video that will be shown periodically during the course of the evening. It's the 1932 Olympic video. It's provided by George Chase, whose dad John was the captain of the 1932 Olympic team. Also, a member of that team was Doug Everett, after whom Everett Arena in Concord is named. So thanks very much to George Chase and the Chase family for making that great video available to us. Without further ado, we'd like to begin the evening by introducing Father Raymond Ball, the pastor of Immaculate Heart of Mary Church in Concord, for the invocation. Father Ball.
Well, good afternoon, fellow hockey players and hockey fans. I've always enjoyed hockey. I figured it was closest I'd ever come to walking on water would be skating on ice. So, anyway. Hockey, like life, where it is far better when you assist, when you save, and when you have a goal. Where accountability and justice are meted out in 2- and 5-minute intervals. When change isn't delayed but happens on the fly, where the individual sacrifices for the team, where team unity is more important than individual differences, where opposing teams are extended a handshake, where teammates become lifelong friends, and where a miracle on ice can inspire a nation. We are grateful for the ways that hockey has served as a force for good, inspiring effort, hard work, discipline, teamwork, sportsmanship, competitive drive, courage, perseverance, serving as a unifying presence for families, schools, towns, cities, churches, institutions, and our state. As we honor those to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, we honor the way those qualities continue to be manifest off the ice as well. May these qualities of those we honor be passed forward so that their example may continue to light the lamps in the hearts of people throughout our state. We make this prayer in faith, hope, and love to our Lord, our coach, and our teammate in the game of life. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father Ball. A number of years ago, too many, as I like to count them, I went up to Berlin, New Hampshire when I was coaching at UNH and had the opportunity to take a young player for the Berlin Maroons out to lunch, which would now be an NCAA violation, which shows you how far we've come. I forgot to tell him he's probably ineligible for the 4 years he played at UNH. But anyway, that was the beginning of long friendship and relationship with the president of our organization. I'd like to introduce him for a few words. Please welcome Johnny Norman.
Thank you, Bob. As always, it is an honor and a sincere pleasure to be before the new inductees and everyone that is here present today. Thank you very much. On behalf of New Hampshire Legends of Hockey, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the 16th induction ceremony of the New Hampshire Hockey Hall of Fame. Congratulations to our 7 Hall of Fame inductees. A special welcome to their family members and friends who have come to join today's celebration. In addition, I'd also want to welcome back our current Hall of Fame members. We've gathered here today because of a game that has touched each of our lives in many different ways. This is a unique event that brings the New Hampshire community, hockey community, under one roof where we can rekindle old friendships, foster new ones, and celebrate the past, present, and future of hockey in New Hampshire. Of course, we're gathered primarily to honor 7 individuals who made significant contributions to the sport of hockey in New Hampshire as players and builders. Our class of 2017 represents both the past and present of hockey in New Hampshire. Like all of our members of our Hall of Fame, our new inductees have given back to the sport of hockey as builders, supporting or managing various hockey programs at a local or national level, and as players who have left their unique imprint on the New Hampshire hockey landscape, beginning from their youth hockey days, high school or prep, to college, to professional and Olympic teams. I'd like to take a moment to introduce a couple of dignitaries who have joined us today. Please hold your applause until after I announce these gentlemen. Senator Lou D'Alessandro of Manchester, a longtime Legends supporter, Mayor Jim Boulay of Concord, and Red Gendron, our keynote speaker and head coach of the Maine Black Bears and an alum of New England College. As many of you are aware, the New Hampshire Legends were formed in 2001 with our primary mission of honoring, celebrating, and preserving New Hampshire's rich ice hockey history while supporting the development of hockey. As noted in the program, the first organized hockey game with rules in the United States was played in 1883 on a pond here in Concord by students at St. Paul's School. You can access the New Hampshire Hockey Hall of Fame and our hockey museum over the internet on the New Hampshire Legends website, newhampshirelegendsofhockey.com, which is also listed in the program. By the way, we're also working on building a new website, which hopefully you'll find more user-friendly. Nominations of deserving individuals in the induction in the class of the New Hampshire Hockey Hall of Fame can be filed by anyone and is due by March 1st of 2018. The nomination form will be available on our Legends website after January 1st. We welcome and encourage those of you who feel you have someone that is deserving. Please bring those nominations forward to us. In the past few years, the focus of the Legends has continued to expand by supporting the growth of hockey in New Hampshire at all levels. And for example, we've supported several youth programs with equipment purchases for families of need. We partner with the New Hampshire high school coaches to recognize the boys and girls all-state players. We partner with the New Hampshire prep school coaches to recognize their all-state players, and we sponsor the senior all-star doubleheader for Division 1, 2, and 3 at the season's end. In addition, we help support the boys and girls Make-A-Wish game between New Hampshire and Vermont high school seniors. We've supported the Black Ice Pond Hockey Tournament, a senior pond hockey tournament held here in Concord in January. Their proceeds go to expanding skating areas throughout the capital city and financially support a new skate house at White's Park. It also connects many of us on the Legends board to our roots, the days when we learned to play hockey on local ponds in our hometowns. In 2018, you can expect the Legends to continue to support hockey in New Hampshire, particularly the future of the sport at a grassroots level, youth hockey. We are pleased and fortunate to have Paul Camo, current president of the New Hampshire Amateur Hockey Association, on our board. In particular, I'd like to thank our 4 key sponsors. Our presenting sponsor, CUSA Consulting. Thank you, Mark Thurston. Our luncheon sponsor, St. Paul's School. Many thanks to Mike Hirschfeld, rector at St. Paul's School. Our title sponsor, New Hampshire Amateur Hockey Association. Thank you, Paul Camo, and their board of directors. Our social hour sponsor, New Hampshire Distributors. Many thanks to Chris Brown and all the management for their support, which dates back to 2004. I'd also like to recognize the support of our other sponsors, the 8 gold level sponsors, the 11 silver level sponsors, which their names and banners are hanging around the room, and our 6 bronze. We thank you all for your generosity and support. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, John. Now we're going to have a bit of a test. I'm at the age where I forget everything. I mean, don't ask me what I had for breakfast this morning. I couldn't tell you. But somebody forgot their red keys out in the lobby. Now, does that person have guts enough to stand up and say, I forgot my keys? Could you give me, here we go. Come on up, we'll give it to you. And you got no excuses. You got no gray hair. That's a unique way to return somebody's keys, isn't it? I'd like to take 1 second here to recognize somebody else in the audience. Charlie Holt had a great legacy as the coach at the University of New Hampshire and as a member of our Hall of Fame, one of our first inductees. I've always felt that one of Charlie's greatest legacies was the number of coaches he turned out, the number of his players that went on to have successful careers as coaches, Bruce Crowder, Dick Gamilli, guys that really did great jobs in coaching. And when you look at Joey Marsh at St. Lawrence, when you look at the all-time list of coaching wins in college hockey in the history of the game, Charlie Holt's protégés are among the tops. None better than the man I'm going to introduce to you to be recognized. This guy's won more national championships at Middlebury College than almost anybody else. He's won more Spencer Penrose Awards as Coach of the Year than anybody I can think of. One of the great college hockey coaches of all time, former coach of New England College. Please recognize Billy Beanie. This time for letters to the governor. I hope he's not going to read them all. Governor citations. I hope he's not going to read them all. And State of New Hampshire resolutions. I hope he's kind enough not to read them all. My dear friend, State Senator Lou D'Alessandro.
Thank you very much, Bob. Always a pleasure to see Bob Norton. Glad they got the barrier behind now because we lost them there a couple of years ago. So we had to get them in the lost and found. Listen, it's always a pleasure to be here at the Legends of Hockey dinner and to witness the induction of the new inductees. It's indeed an honor. I might say that the president of New England College is here, Michelle Perkins, and New England is being honored, so I'd like to have you recognize Michelle Perkins, who's the president of NEC. And to follow the wishes of the great Bob Norton, I'll give you a little précis of the governor's message. I went to the governor about coming. He always likes to attend things, but as you know, the governor's very, very busy. He's very busy this week soliciting Amazon, trying to get them to come to New Hampshire. So that's a full court press if you're a basketball fan. So the governor wishes to extend his congratulations and best wishes to all the inductees and to the directors of the New Hampshire Hockey Hall of Fame for the great work that they have done over the years in influencing youngsters to participate in hockey. Great sport, great attendance at our university and the other colleges in New England that participate in hockey, and he wishes you and all of the inductees and their families the very, very best. So, and wishes them heartiest congratulations. And that's the message from the governor of New Hampshire, Christopher Sununu. And I might say only the second time in the history of our state we have had a father and a son become governor of the state of New Hampshire, and that's really something to be proud of. So thank you all for coming. Great to be with you. Great to be with the great Bob Norton because, you know, it's like the American dream personified. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for lunch.
I'm going to leave this with you because you deserve it.
You don't want it? We're in the middle of election season here in Concord, and I'll take the chance by saying that we really are fortunate to have a great mayor here in Concord who has been a consistent supporter of the New Hampshire Legends of Hockey, and I'd like to introduce, for greetings from the city, Mayor Jim Boulay.
Well, welcome to another great day in the city of Concord, right? Because every day is a great day in the city of Concord. Right. Remember, he said it was an election year, so there you go. So welcome, everyone, to our 2017 New Hampshire Legends Hockey Hall of Fame luncheon. And welcome to the city of Concord, or as I like to call it, the cradle of hockey. As you all know, the game began just a few miles from here on the campus of St. Paul's, home to the great Hobie Baker. First, let me extend the congratulations to the 7 inductees being honored today, as well as the men's and women's team for New England College, who had a terrific season last year. The city of Concord has come far since the days that the only hockey that could be found was on the ponds of St. Paul's School, White Park, Horseshoe Pond, or anywhere else the kids could shovel off the snow for some ice surface. But so too is the game of hockey. Certainly has come a long way from the outdoor game in the late 1980s. Try it again, how about the 1800s? It is hard to imagine a game today without semi-warm arenas, Zambonis, or even instant replay. Players have become bigger, faster, stronger, while the equipment has gotten lighter and safer. Once there was leather and wood, now there is space-age composites, light plastics, and foams. Hockey is our game, Concord's game, New Hampshire's game. But it's much more than just a game. It is a passion that brings us all together on frozen ponds, community rinks, or even just our own backyards. And that passion is in every rink across New Hampshire. It's in our blood and it's in our hearts. So you lace up the skates, you strap on the helmet, you walk on the ice, and nothing else matters. Your world is perfect for the next couple of hours. We all share that common bond here today, the love of hockey. So here's to face-offs, goals, assists, saves, overtimes, cold rinks and early mornings, breakaways, going top shelf, flashing the leather, countless hours of practice, bag skates, broken twigs, new skates, dropping the mitts, coaches, adding the letter Y to the end of everyone's last name, tape to tape, letdowns, miracles, and most of all, to the game of hockey. Now, Yesterday, I was playing some golf, and a bunch of folks from New England College was playing, and I was talking to one of my friends who is a hockey player. I think he still actually hits the golf ball like a hockey puck. And he said, "Buleg, you're really boring. You got to spice it up a little this year. We've heard the same thing 6 years in a row. You got a joke or something?" So most people don't realize, but I actually grew up in Littleton. So I consider myself still a North Country person. And yes, I've been fortunate to be the mayor of Concord. But here, so let me tell you a little story about growing up in Littleton. There was this teacher in the North Country, and she was a staunch Montreal Canadian fan. And she asked her class one day, she said, to raise their hands if they too are Montreal fans. All but one little boy in the back of the class raised their hands. Astonished, she asked, "Little boy, who are you rooting for? The Boston Bruins?" He said, "Of course the Boston Bruins." She said, "Why would you be a Bruins fan?" He says, "But because my parents are Bruins fan," he added. The teacher quickly replied, "Would you be a Bruins fan just because your parents are? Why would you be a Bruins fan just because your parents are? If your parents are both morons, would that make you a moron?" He says, "No," the little boy says, "that would make me a Montreal Canadian fan."
Good one. That's good one. That's a good one. Good job. Sometimes they don't work. That worked. This was a good audience for that. I'd like to introduce now our President, Johnny Norman, for the recognition of our honored team. John?
So to our friends from Quebec, welcome. Each year, we select one team to honor at our induction ceremony, and last October, we announced that team was New England College men's and women's hockey teams. And today, we honor them. The history of hockey at New England College dates to the mid-60s, and the first varsity men's season was 69-70, and over 48 seasons, NEC men's teams have produced 542 wins, 577 losses, and 68 ties. 3 times in 1984, 2001, and 2005, Pilgrims qualified for the NCAA Division III tournament and twice have won league titles in 2001 and 2005. Several players have earned All-America honors. The first in 1982 was Ed Galliani, the program's all-time leading scorer with 178 points. Also Ralph Aiello, 2001, Travis Banga, 2003-04, Jeremy Koning, 2006, Brett Killar, 2017 have been honored. 19 players have come from Concord, our capital city. First captain was Bob Clement in 1969, and most recently Kevin Marceau in 2015. Over the first 30 years, the vast majority of Pilgrims were from New England, New York, New Jersey. In recent years, student athletes have hailed from Canada, Sweden, Finland, Russia, Japan, Slovakia, Denmark, Switzerland, England, Iceland, Czechoslovakia, Germany, and Croatia. Current head coach Tom Carroll is entering his 16th season, owns a record of 213 wins, 153 losses, 36 ties, most all time. The Friends of NEC Hockey was officially founded in 19 as a support group for the new arena and the hockey program. And since 2001-2002, NEC has fielded a varsity women's team at the Division III level. For 12 straight seasons between 2003 and 2014, the Pilgrims made their league playoffs, reaching the ECAC championship game in 2010, going 12, 13, and 3 overall. I'd like all of the New England College alumni, hockey and non-athletic staff, administration, to stand in just a moment. With us today, the president of college, Mike Perkins, Marie Uvick, VP Institutional Advancement, men's head coach Tom Carroll, and at least 28 alumni, of which 10 are from the very first team in 1969-70, along with Coach Leo Callahan. If you'd all stand, and please give them a nice round of applause. Congratulations, NEC. Leo Callahan, would you please come up with a few remarks? And I'd like to present you with a jersey, which you can present to the school.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. Ever so much. That's the governor's something? Yes. This is the jersey. We'll take a picture. A perfect fit.
In June of this year, I celebrated birthday number 78, which means as of today's gathering, I've survived this life for 940 months. And if you ask me which of those 940 is my absolute favorite and most memorable, I'll happily tell you November of 1969. I still describe that month as an A-plus chunk of my life, and I still recall it with great clarity and affection. Why? Well, starting with November 1st, which was a Saturday, my daughter was born right here in Concord at 11:33 a.m. I had just become a first-time daddy, and a few days later at Everett Arena, I officially became a first-time college hockey coach. That day was Wednesday, November 19th at 1 p.m. against St. Francis College of Biddeford, Maine. The first goal came in the first period at 6:03. Our center, John Lineberry, who's out there, deftly won a corner face-off. The puck went back to defenseman Jay Jones at the point, and the visiting goalie never had a chance. It was a boomer of a shot. In the end, we won 6-3. It was NEC's very first varsity win in its very first varsity outing. Next month will mark 48 years. One historical note right here is that my friend forward John Millar carved out his own niche in NEC's first game history. At 2:20 of that first period, on his very first shift, he was flagged for NEC's very first penalty. Tripping. But I'll say no more about that. We killed off the penalty. Our very first season ended with a record of 10-3-1, plus many, many, many memories for all of us. And staying for a sec on that subject of memory, the other day I was studying the photo of our very first varsity team, and I had to smile broadly. First, it brought back memories of our first uniforms. That first hockey season, the athletic budget was skimpy. and we didn't have complete new uniforms. So the guys used their own hockey pants, and the late Lee Clement, rest his soul, our athletic director back then, ordered red and white hockey stockings. Our jerseys really set us apart on the ice. Lee Clement, being a creative thinker, hauled out the red and white long-sleeve soccer team jerseys. The shoulder and elbow striping was distinctive, but definitely not found elsewhere in the hockey world. The team looked fine, except for the fact that the numbers were all double figures: 66, 58, 49. Needless to say, our boys on the ice did not look like a conventional college hockey team. All of this was back in the days long before Wayne Gretzky made double numbers fashionable. Now, getting back to that photo, yesterday I was closely studying that photo and I realized I remembered each of the 19 players by name and their positions. 9 of them are here today. And I'll ask each man to please stand as I call his name, and please remain standing. Everyone else out there, please hold your applause for my signal. Number 28, John Millar. Number 49, Jim Millar. They are brothers. Number 6, Jake Mulligan. Number 56, Bill Whittemore. Number 16, John Lineberry. Number 39, goaltender Joe Masakowski. Number 58, Mark Sullivan. Number 45 and first goal scorer, Jay Jones. And number 38, Jerry Drypolcher. Please give them a hand. Sadly, unable to be with us today, but still deep in our hearts are number 19, co-captain Jim Peabody, number 38, co-captain Bob Clement, number 48, Walt Elander, number 35, Steve Hansen, number 58, Mark Traber, number 48, Gordon Thompson, number 28, goaltender Al LeBlanc, number 29, Jack Galbraith, number 66, Jerry Mulhall, and number 26, Bob Gellert. And so, my old man's memory ain't as bad as I thought. And my sincere hope is that it remains the sacred repository for the events and the names from our very first hockey season back in 1969. Thanks, guys, for the memories.
Now we'll begin lunch and we'll resume the program sort of around dessert time. Thank you.
So I would like to take a moment to recognize a couple of outstanding individuals who have served on our board of directors and have recently stepped down. Bob Vachon, Roland Olivier, Jim Rivers, and Colleen Lawson, who is not here, and I don't believe Jim is here, but if you would, I'd take a quick moment to just say thank you so much for your dedication. Bob Vachon was part of this board for many, many years. He chaired the selection committee, did a fabulous job. And the past president, Roland Olivier, who has served as president for, I believe it was 2 terms. Thank you again for your commitment to this organization, and you will be, honestly, you'll be missed. Sincerely, thank you. I'd like to take a moment just to, as you know, we are a nonprofit that depends on members' support, and I want to just take a moment to talk about that. Your efforts, your support helps us continue our mission. And our mission is noted on the front page of the program, and we will run our supporters campaign starting in January, and it will run throughout the calendar year. Our executive director and board work very tirelessly all year to organize this event, as well as our annual golf classic and the senior high school games that we sponsor in March. I'd like to thank all of our board members who are listed on page 1 in your program. Thank you for your continued commitment to this board. So you know, we, as I stated, we are a nonprofit. We're always looking for volunteers or members to join. Your financial commitment, however small or however large, is always graciously accepted. So keep us in mind throughout the year. Please go to our website. As I mentioned, we have a new website, which will be much more user-friendly. And take a moment to make a donation, all right? Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Once again, I want to congratulate all of the class of 2017 inductees, your families and friends, and thank you all for coming today.
Thank you, John. Our guest speaker tonight is sort of a case of a local boy comes home, a local boy, a New Hampshire boy who has left Berlin and has made a career for himself as one of the outstanding coaches in the country. Has coached at a variety of levels, has been a high school coach, a college coach, a professional coach, and at every level he has experienced great success. And when you talk about guys who know the game of hockey and guys who've been inspirational leaders in the game of hockey in the United States, his name certainly leads the list. We're really honored to have as our guest speaker from New England College, Red Gendron. Red.
Well, thank you very much, Bob, for the introduction. And let me first begin by saying I'm extraordinarily honored to be here today to celebrate the 2017 class. Congratulations to all of you, and as Bob said, your families. I know some are being inducted posthumously, which is still a terrific honor, and it's great that your families can share the excellence of your loved ones as it relates to hockey in this great state. I want to talk a little bit about a quote I heard a long time ago. I guess I'm told it's an African proverb. It goes something like this: it takes a village to raise a child. And I've been lucky to be part of lots of different villages in the course of my professional career and my development as a human being, starting in Berlin, New Hampshire. So my first village in Berlin What I've come to realize now that I'm a little bit older and my brain seems to work a little bit better, Bill Beanie wouldn't think so. Coach Beanie was my coach. That's why he doesn't have any hair any longer. I think villages, if it's a great village, you're going to find great mentors. You're going to find heroes that you can emulate. You're going to find brothers, people that you're going to go to battle with. And then you'll also find great nemeses that help push you to your utmost capacity. So as a kid growing up in Berlin, 1967 or thereabouts, I lived right across the street from Memorial Field in Berlin, baseball park, right? And so there was this guy who's a member of this august group, Bruce Parker, who coached hockey in Berlin and coached the last New England championship team at Berlin High School. He was also a great baseball guy, and I was a little kid, and Roger Letourneau, who's being inducted here today, Roger played some baseball too, and I would go across the street during high school and Legion practice, and they'd let me shag balls. I'd go get the foul balls that went into the yards and all of that, and then occasionally shag some in the outfield that the other players were too lazy to go get all the way to the fence. You know, and then at the end of the practices, you know, Bruce Parker would say, "Hey, red tank," because I was always kind of big, and I was once red. He'd say, "Get up there, grab a bat." Now, of course, I'm grabbing a bat that's probably 34 inches, and I'm 9 years old. And Coach Parker's throwing them right down the plate, and I'm whacking them. And guys like Roger Letourneau are sitting out there pretending they don't want to go out and have a beer with their buddies. And while they're shagging my chintzy little whacks at the baseball. But he was a mentor, Coach Parker. Guys like Husky Poirier, Albie Broder, both members of this group, they were mentors. Without them, I wouldn't be worthy of being here before you today. And then there were heroes. People that you look up to. You know, when I was a kid, the Notre Dame Arena in Berlin was the center of the universe. And when you're a kid, you're going to the rink and you're watching the high school guys like Roger, and then you're watching the Berlin Maroons. Saw Bird Levine here today, Dickie Roy here today. Those were my heroes. I wanted to be like them. Coach Parker was also a member of that team. And then there were nemeses, you know, as a kid. Like, I knew who was playing on those other teams. So today we honor the dad of a friend and colleague of mine, Rand Pecknold's dad, Wayne. I can't say that I really remember Mr. Pecknold, what kind of a player he was or whatnot, but I do remember the name. And I remember Ray Champagne and Kangaroo Hebert. And in your village, you have to grow to respect the people who make you better from the outside. That's how you grow. And then I was lucky, I got to go to a new village, a new hockey village. I went to New England College. And there, my mentors were people like Mickey Goulet, who had a long career just like Coach Beanie. He's retired now in Ottawa. Coach Beanie, of course. But also while I was at New England College, I got just a little bit smarter. One of my favorite expressions is it's not okay to be stupid, and it's cool to be smart. And I think I started to take some steps while I was there. I became a more thoughtful person. And while I was at New England College learning from a couple of great hockey minds, I learned some things about history and teaching so that I could stand before you today. So I was lucky that way. Brothers, I had lots of them. You know, there's a bunch of my brothers already in this group. John Norman is one of my hockey brothers. Jimmy Griffin, being inducted today, one of my hockey brothers. And I had a whole bunch of them at New England College, and all of these men remain important to me today. Pretty cool to be part of these new villages, right? But it's all part of one big hockey family. Today, the hockey family is primarily focused on the great state of New Hampshire and our rich heritage and all of the people who've contributed to that end. But I can tell you that Jacques Lemaire not only knew Red Gendron from Berlin and Jimmy Griffin, who he coached at Plattsburgh State University when Jimmy was playing there, but he also knew Husky Poirier. And he knew Husky because I was fond of times sporting Husky's inimitable broken English, franglais, if you will. And at one point, Jacques said to me, and you know, those of us that are French Canadian, there are a few of us in the area, you know, all of the foul language, forgive me, Reverend, all of the foul language has to do with different things in the Catholic Church, and so anyway, Jacques says to me, I'm telling him stories about Husky and so on and so forth, and he says, Tabarnak, Red. He goes, stop talking like that. I go, what do you mean, Jacques? He goes, you talk with that French-Canadian accent and you intentionally mispronounce words and say the wrong word at the right time and the right time and the wrong word. He goes, then I go in front of the devil and I say the wrong thing to them, I'm all confused. So even Hall of Famer Jacques Lemaire knew Husky Poirier. The point is, the villages continue to come with you. And personally, I'm proud to be part of the village of Berlin, the village of New England College, the village of New Hampshire hockey. And I've taken the village with me to Maine. And again, it's been a pleasure for me to stand before you today and celebrate all of you who are here, celebrate all of the inductees, and to just remind us about our better natures and how we all need to stick together as opposed to being divisive. Finally, no one is tough alone. You know, my lovely bride here, if my kids turned out all right, I can't take any credit for it. If I were able to manage my life, the ups and downs of coaching, it's because of my wife. It's because of the mentors I had, because of the brothers I had and still have. So thank you all to my hockey family.
Thank you, Red. As always, you are an entertainer and a great speaker and a motivator and a great coach. Proud to have you as a brother. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the current legends who are in attendance today. As I say your name, if you would stand, and we'll hold our applause until I get to the end of the list. Red Gendron, Bob Norton, Ken Kale, Dick Boucher, Merrill Fay, Leo Gould, Peter Marr, Mark Evans, Dick Roy, Rand Pecknold, Pierre Belanger, Ken McKinnon, Rolly Levine, Steve Murphy, Andre Prefontaine, Brian Stone, Jeff Giuliano, and
One more just came in from Connecticut. Ryan Brandt is a director.
Ryan Brandt, please stand. And I saved myself for last. Thank you very much. I would also like to invite, excuse me.
I'd like to put up Gary Bishop, please.
Is Gary here?
He sure is.
I'm sorry. Where is Gary? Oh, Bish. My apologies. It never fails. We always leave somebody out. Thanks for coming, Gary. If I could call up, today we're fortunate to have past presidents. I'd like to invite the past presidents up to take a picture as a group. Dick Boucher, Roland Martin, Roland Olivier, Tom Champagne, and Greg Moffett. If you would please come to the front of the stage. Should we here or on the stage? Right in front? I guess I'm not done yet. As is customary, we take the time at this event to announce next year's team that we'll be honoring. And that team is Manchester Regional Youth Hockey Association, also known as MIRA, which is they were established in 1965. Some of the founding members were Alphonse Corriveau and Hubie McDonough, Paul Wise. For over 50 years, well over 2,000 kids participated in MIRA hockey. There's a quote from the late Hubie McDonough. It's really incredible to think it's been 53 years, that give or take a few, because unless you've been part of the association in some capacity, outsiders just don't realize the amount of work it takes to keep this league going strong year after year. The words of Hubie McDonough. Numerous players growing up through MIRA have gone on to successful college, professional, and hockey careers, and a few of recent would be Hubie McDonough, Jeff Giuliano, Tim Schaller, and Zach Sanford. Also, members of this illustrious Hall of Fame from Manchester, Jeff Sorowick, Rand Pecknold, Brian Stone, Hubie and Kyle McDonough, and Jeff Giuliano. during the 70 years, during the 70s, Myra was also recognized as either the first or second largest youth hockey association in the United States. And it's estimated that between 60 and 80,000 skaters came through their program. Pretty amazing when you think about that. So I would like for the Myra delegation, if you could please stand, and we'll give you a round of applause. And we really look forward to honoring your association next year. Thank you very much. And so one last thing is that if you folks could really help us with putting together this history of your great organization through, we'd always be looking for videos, photos, any historical information that you can provide, please reach out to us. We certainly welcome your input. Thank you very much.
Now's the time of the program where we recognize our honorees. The first one is Hal P. Campbell, recognized as a coach. It's not often in this organization's history that we've had an opportunity to recognize someone who actually played with the person after whom the Hobey Baker Award is named. Hal P. Campbell was the captain of the team at St. Paul's School that Hobey Baker played on. Hal Campbell not only played at St. Paul School, he captained and he coached, and he's on the academic staff until his death in 1953. In honor of his many years of service to St. Paul's and his fixture in the St. Paul's community, the Hal P. Campbell Hockey Award is presented annually to the boy at St. Paul's who throughout the school year has contributed most to the spirit and traditions of St. Paul's hockey. New Hampshire Legends of Hockey is proud to honor into our Hall of Fame coach, teacher, leader, Hal P. Campbell. Is accepting the award for Hal Campbell will be his grandson, Bob Diefendorf. Mr. Diefendorf.
Good afternoon. Thank you. A hearty thank you to the New Hampshire Legends of Hockey for this honor on behalf of my grandfather. Hal Campbell passed away the year before I was born, and he married rather late in life to a woman, Elsie, 20 years his junior. So his children, 3 daughters, all of whom are here today, were quite young when he died. And as a result, their memories of his life and accomplishments were pretty limited. It has been on my bucket list to one day research his life, as I'd only heard bits and pieces of his past. My grandmother told me that he enjoyed safari and hunted big game in Africa. Hearing this as a young boy, I was all the more intrigued. He was very athletic. He could climb a rope hand over hand faster than anybody, I was told. And my mom had mentioned on numerous occasions that my grandfather had played hockey with Hobey Baker. So I was understandably curious to learn a little bit more about him. It was just earlier this year at a party celebrating a mutual friend's hockey team wins, I started speaking with Jim Hayes. And little did I know what might come of that conversation. Jim's interest in my grandfather's contributions to New Hampshire hockey, coupled with efforts by my friend David Levesque, who completed much of the research at the St. Paul School Library, produced Howell's bio that we've received and is on display here today. Some of his many accomplishments are well documented here, and I hope you can find a moment to read about him. He loved St. Paul School, he loved hockey, and he was very active on both fronts. So I thank you to Jim and David for all of your good work to make this happen, and for knocking one off my bucket list. Seriously, I'm very grateful for this day, and know that my family, Howell's daughters in particular, and they are Adair, Sylvia and Heather, at table 1. They're all very proud. They're all very proud and appreciative of this opportunity to acknowledge their dad as an inductee to the New Hampshire Legends of Hockey Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. Fabulous. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Our next honoree is more local. Morris Kuchar, Concord, New Hampshire. Morris Kuchar was a 21-year player for the Sacre Coeur team, Sacred Heart, from 1931 to 1952. He compiled the highest number of goals, 119, and assists, 115, of any player on the team. He finished his playing career with 234 points in 150-plus games. He was the captain of the Sacred Heart team during the famous hockey game held in Concord against the 1952 U.S. Olympic team. He continued to play hockey in Concord for a number of years and was a fixture in hockey at White's Park. Morris Kuchar is famous in Concord for his skating ability and his ability to play the game at the highest level. It's our honor to recognize our past and our tradition by recognizing Morris Kuchar by induction into the Hall of Fame. His award will be received by his godson, another pretty good hockey player, Peter Champagne.
Well, thank you for letting me speak to you today. I asked myself, why am I here and not out there? And I thought, is it fate or just being in the wrong place at the wrong time? Last summer, I was shopping at a local sporting goods store, and I walked around the corner, and there was Jimmy Hayes. And he was saying that, he asked me the question, do you know any living relatives of Morris Kuchar? I said no. And then I heard my mouth open and say, well, I'm his godson. Jimmy has kept me on target here, and I'm off target a lot with this program, so I appreciate, Jim, you getting me on the straight and narrow. I didn't know him that well. I was very young when he passed away. So a lot of my memories are from what I've heard from people, especially the two surviving Sacred Heart folks, and that's Tom Champagne, my dad, and Barney Colgan. The two things that I remember are, which confirm some of the things that you'll read in the literature. We have a pond out here, it's Turkey Pond. And when it doesn't snow and it freezes, it just goes on. And I remember seeing my dad and Mo, as they called him, or Cooch, skating gracefully across that with their red Sacred Heart jackets on. And I've always remembered that. It was such a smooth skating. I was just amazed by it. I wish I could have skated half as good as they did. You may have heard he was born in 1915. He frequented the local rinks or the hot spots for skating and playing hockey. Sacred Heart lasted from 1931 to 1952, and Mo was there the whole time. And as it's been indicated, he put a lot of points on the board. And he did that because he wasn't necessarily the fastest guy in the world, but he could move the puck, and he could move his body to get by the opposing players with a skill of agility that I'm told was very remarkable. Again, he was the captain during the famous Olympic game back in 1952. His other passion was tennis. Tennis is one of my passions as well. And he actually started taking up tennis, and he would play with some of the local folks over at St. Paul's School. And he actually won a doubles tournament one year down here at the Bowbrook Club. And I was thinking about that today, and I could imagine Morris Kuchar, who, if you knew him, you know he was in the room. He had no problem speaking up. His ability to play hockey was great. His ability to raise hell seemed to be quite the same. So I just couldn't imagine him playing hockey on this prestigious tennis court. So I just want to close and say I appreciated Jim letting me get up here and accepting it, not only for my family, but for the survivors of the Sacred Heart team. And thank you and congratulations to all the other winners today. Thank you.
For our next honoree, we make another trip to Berlin, New Hampshire. Jim Griffin, born on January 3rd, 1960 in Berlin, New Hampshire, and an outstanding player for the Berlin Maroons junior hockey team. Played at both the Bantam and midget levels, and then went off to New England College, where over 2 years at New England he scored 164 points in his 2 seasons. And after his sophomore year, he transferred to Plattsburgh. Now, Plattsburgh is a very strong, at that time, Division II program, now Division III program, obviously in northern New York, and he was a great player at Plattsburgh. He received the Chester A. Grabowski Award, awarded annually to the player who most typifies Plattsburgh hockey, demonstrating supreme sportsmanship, hard work, and dedication. He was a terrific player in his 2 years at Plattsburgh. He was named ECAC West Playoffs MVP, and finished his college career with 60 goals, 94 assists, 154 points in 117 games. One of the great players to come out of Berlin, New Hampshire, Jim Griffin.
First of all, I would like to thank God for this day and for each and every one of you. I'm sure all the inductees here today feel the support and the love of hockey that we all share together. I do have a little problem. Where's Jim Hayes? Jim, I thought you said I had to keep this under 5 hours. So I'll have to cut out a few things. Thank you so much to the Legends of Hockey, the Board of Directors. Especially I want to thank Jim Hayes. Unbelievable, tireless worker. And when we had questions, he was right on top of things. And he really made this a special event. And I really appreciate all your help, Jim. My wife came across the website for the Legends of Hockey, and she asked me what it was, and I explained to her. And she said, well, I want to nominate you. And I said, I don't know about that. There's a lot of great players. And she said, well, all they can do is say no. And Martha, they didn't say no. Here we are. You are my biggest fan, and I love you. Congratulations to New England College for the tremendous men's and women's program that they have built there. And it's another college from New Hampshire that's made us all proud. I did have the pleasure of playing there for 2 years under Coach Beanie. And I was talking to him a little while ago about our victory over Army. At that time, Coach Beanie said that was probably one of the biggest wins in New England College history at that point. We went to West Point, and we had our pregame meal with the West Point players, and the meal was a little different than what we had at New England College. We didn't get the steak and the nice baked potatoes like they had. But I want to thank Coach Beanie for everything. And that's a game. I talked to him a few minutes ago, and he remembers well. And thanks for all you've done. And congratulations on all your success. Red, I asked him what I should call him today. He said, call me anything. But I guess I call you Coach, if that's okay. I had the pleasure of playing with Red my freshman year, and he was our captain. And my first day there, Red came and spent some time with me and made me feel welcome there. And we even went to find Johnny and Frankie, but we couldn't find them at UNH. I don't know if you remember that. We went for a ride. Let's see. My family. First of all, I'd like to thank my late parents, Roland and Louise Griffin, for all of their support and love and endless hours of time they spent helping me to develop my skills, getting me to practices with no complaints. My 3 sisters and their husbands. First of all, Peggy Drago, my oldest sister and her husband, Mike. My sister, Christy, and her husband, John. My sister, Joanne, and her brother-in-law, Joe. God gave me a hat trick. 3 wonderful sisters who I would never be here without their support. Not just playing hockey, but through the rest of my journey through life. I am very thankful to God for one thing. They all have their fingers and toes. No frostbite. All the games in the arena in Berlin. It was a little chilly. Also want to thank some special people here today. My cousins, Linda and Richard Thompson. I live down in Virginia, and I moved down there in '85, and they're my Virginia family. And I thank you for coming all the way from Virginia to be here with us today. I have so many people that I'd like to say their names, but obviously I don't have 5 hours. Jim gave me some wrong information. My teammates. Yeah, I scored a lot of goals and a lot of assists, but my stats aren't so good without teammates. My stats without teammates were 0 goals, 0 assists, and 0 points. I didn't win any games. I didn't win any state championships. So my teammates are really, for me, what it's all about. It's not an individual sport. And I look out at guys who had my back, and I've had their back. I gotta say, my favorite winger that I ever played with. I'd like him to stand up. Mo Tremblay. I've played with a lot of players, I really have. Pound for pound, Mo T. Unbelievable. Mark Smith, Gary Poyot, Andy Buckley. I'll forget names, and I don't like doing that. A great friend of mine, Dennis Fournier. Dennis and I, we've been through it all together. The ups and the downs. Dennis is almost like a member of our family. He's been a big support to us and a great guy. Also Andy Buckley, probably one of the biggest cheerleaders I ever had. Always encouraging me. And thanks for being here. All my nieces and nephews. Got a great sled hockey player in Alex Drago. And real quick, I need to mention some coaches. Chet Cochran, Roland Pouliot, Puff Tata, Puff, Husky Poria, Joe Martin, Bill Beanie, Al Peabody, Herb Hammond, and the great Jacques Lemaire. I guess in closing, I just want to thank you all for coming. New Hampshire is a great hockey state, and this event shows that to be true. Again, I can't thank the teammates of mine enough. When I look at the ring that I'll be getting, I won't be thinking of me. I will be thinking of my teammates, friends, and family. Because they're really what got me here. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have role models, heroes, like Coach said, Coach Gendron, you're not going to get anywhere. And the brothers that the relationships you get with them never leave. It's a bond that stays with you forever because of the many battles that you had together. So thank you very much, and I appreciate everything. Thanks.
This is not the order that it usually happens. The son inducted first and the father second. But Rand would probably be the first one to tell you that it could quite easily have been flipped. Wayne Pecknold was a great player. 238 career points in a career with the Concord Eastern Olympics from 1967 and 74. But how he got there was a little different. He's a native of Victoria, British Columbia. He was a scholarship player at Michigan State. And as happened frequently in that time, if you played any junior A hockey at all, you could be declared ineligible to play college hockey in the United States. And that's what happened to him. He was declared ineligible to play at Michigan State, and more often than not, when that happened, the players went right back to British Columbia or Ontario or wherever they came from and resumed their education in a Canadian university. And Wayne Pecknold did not, and we're all fortunate he didn't. He was an honor student at Michigan State, Bachelor of Science degree in 1963, Master's and PhD in engineering from MIT, and remained on the MIT faculty as a professor of civil engineering. but it's as a hockey player he's being honored tonight, and he was a great player for the Concord Eastern Olympics, one of their greatest players, and one of their captains. He was a captain over the entire period of his playing. He finished his career playing for the Concord Budmen and then went on to another career, and that is mentoring young players in the Manchester Youth Hockey Association. And the list of young players, including his son, that he mentored is endless. His award tonight, or this afternoon, will be accepted by his former teammate, Thompson Meacham. Thompson.
Hello, everybody. I really would like to thank the Pecknold family for giving me the honor of being able to speak a few words about my teammate, my mentor, and a dear friend, Wayne Pecknold. I'm going to talk about Wayne in a bit of a personal vein, but before I do, I'd also, in a personal vein, like to thank everybody associated with the Legends of Hockey, because when I looked at the list of inductees for this year, it was like my own hockey life passed before my very eyes. Not just with Wayne and Roger for the New England, for the Eastern Olympics, but my father, Dick Meacham, played hockey and graduated from St. Paul's School, and Howell Campbell was his coach on the Isthmians. And after he graduated from Harvard and got out of the Navy, he came back to St. Paul's as a teacher. And I was a faculty brat there, and he played for the Sacré Coeur. And it was the Sacré Coeur where I first started to hear all the hockey stories and the hijinks that we have all been hearing today. And Cooch was always talked about at our dinner table, the way he could handle the puck, and he was the epitome of the Sacré Coeur. And I thought to myself, jeepers, who is going to remember the Sacré Coeur? And then I said, that's what this institution is all about. And so I really say thank you so much, because I know we love the Bruins and we love the Patriots and the professional sports, but what you guys are preserving here is the essence of sport, and so we all thank you so much. And it was the essence of sport and the essence of the sport of hockey, which were key lessons I learned from Wayne Pecknold. When I came to the Eastern Olympics in the fall of 1968, I came up there from the Harvard JVs, which is not exactly a feeder program for anything. I loved hockey. I was thrilled to be playing in Concord, which the Eastern Olympics I thought were a natural extension of the Sacré Coeur and all the other great teams that represented Concord. But I didn't know anything about hockey. And Wayne Pecknold took me under his wing. He was the man up there, he was the captain, and I mean, there was no doubt about it that he was the captain. I don't know whether I can mention this name in here if there are any UNH people, but Jack Parker, the former longtime coach of BU hockey, is a friend of ours, and he lives in our neighborhood. And he was in our kitchen a few weeks ago, and I said, you know, I've got a great honor. I'm going up to New Hampshire, and I'm going to be able to speak on behalf of Wayne Pecknold, one of my former teammates at Concord Eastern Olympics. And I'd forgotten that Jack Parker was a referee in the New England League. He said, I remember that guy. Boy, was he a pain in the butt. He wore the C, you know, says Jack to me. And he thought that always meant he could yap, yap, yap at me. He was always in my face. And if you remember, I said, yeah, I know, Jack, he was the captain. And he wore a mouth guard, remember? Yeah, Jack, he did. He was one of the few that wore a mouth guard. And whenever he really got going and he wanted to talk to me, he took that mouth guard out and yapped at me. Finally, I'd taken enough of it. And so he came up to me one game and he said, Jack, I want to talk to you. And Jack Parker said, okay, Wayne, but if you take out that mouth guard, I'm giving you a misconduct. And then Jack sat back and said, you know, he thought he was smarter than everybody. To which I said, you know, Jack, I do think he might have been smarter than everybody. MIT professor. And I laugh myself because those same qualities that irritated Jack Parker so much on the other side of the coin as a captain and a teammate were just the things that made him such a great teammate. So, you know, how many times did he step into the middle when I was getting into a pushing and shoving match with Pref or with Ronnie Dubriel, two guys that are members of this Hall of Fame, saving me before I got killed. Or Rolly Levine stepping inside, although that night in Berlin, even Wayne couldn't save me from getting almost killed. But it was the hockey lessons. There's so many games we played together, so many practices, so many rides to the game, so many rides back. Because I think Wayne Pecknold was a little bit before his time as a hockey player. You know, the lesson, take your time with a puck, hang on to the puck. You know, you got a little bit more time than you think you do. Don't just fire it away, slow down the play. Go to open ice, he says to me, it was just full speed ahead. Don't just stay on the rails by the wall. Look, here's a defenseman, there's the open ice. Go to it. That's where the puck's gonna be. And over time, I started to learn something about the beauty of hockey from Wayne Pecknold. And not also some more deeper hockey skills, like taking responsibility. If Wayne Pecknold had the puck, you did not want to be in the wrong place when he was looking to get it out of the zone. You better get there and be there for him and for your team. And look, Red Meacham, you are a winger. Go into the corner and come out with a puck. And I think those are life lessons as well. I mean, I know myself, when I'm at work or whatever, and figuratively speaking, it's a day when the puck is just clanging off your stick, or the passing lanes aren't there, I can just say to myself, okay, take a deep breath, go into the corner, and come out with a puck. And every time I said that to myself over these many years, I said, thank you, Wayne Pecknold. Most important to my mind, though, he made us, the Concord Eastern Olympics, a real team with our shared purpose, all our roles respected. You know, you can't have 9 forwards that all want to play on the power play. And that's one great thing about a team. We had great players on the Eastern Olympics. We had a ton of meaningful games. We had more than worthy opponents over the course of the years, and we worked like heck on the ice. But more than that, we had so much fun. Yes, we had a lot of fun off the ice, and those stories will remain untold. But thanks to Wayne in creating our team, we had fun on the ice. And when I think about that period, and when I hear Red Gendron talking about the village, and now all those worthy opponents were all brothers, then I really think Wayne Gretzky did not have more fun playing hockey than we did. And that's the tradition that you guys are upholding here in the Hall of Fame. And that's what Wayne Pecknold instilled into our team and into me. And that's what I mean by the essence of sport. So I want to say, you know, it's like, I know a lot of people in this room have played on a team, and the bonding that you have on the team, even if it's a short time, a high school team of 3 or 4 years, those bonds never leave you, even though decades go by. And so I've found myself over the years talking to Wayne Pecknold a lot in my own mind, even though I didn't see him for years and years. And I always was saying to myself, you know, well, when I see Wayne Pecknold next, I'm going to say this or that to him. And so when his passing, so sad, so tragic. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. My dear friend, great mentor, great player, but friend, mentor, and teammate more than that. Thank you, Wayne Pecknold. this something I can give to you? Thanks.
Great job. It seems at these events as if it wouldn't be appropriate if we weren't honoring somebody from Exeter. And I think it's particularly appropriate that tonight, when we seem to be honoring a number of people who are parts of the foundation of the game in the state of New Hampshire, that George Fuzzy Thurston of Exeter be our next nominee. He played a long time for the legendary Amesbury Maple senior team, was the Amateur Defensive Player of the Year for them, determined by the American Amateur Hockey Association. Played for the National Hockey Club from 1930 to 31. Was a participant of the team that won the New England Championship in Providence, Rhode Island. Also participated in 1932 on an amateur team that participated in a European tour and won 23 of 24 games. He helped the New England the Amesbury Maples, as I said, win the New England Amateur title in 39-40. He would also play for the Maples until 1969, and he played his last game at the Exeter rink at the age of 66. He served as a UNH varsity coach for 1 year in 1939, spent many years refereeing, and in essence is part of the legend of hockey in Exeter. Mr. Hockey in the town of Exeter. George Fuzzy Thurston's nomination will be accepted by his grandson, Mark Thurston.
Hey, Johnny. All right, this is quite an event. We went to the Monarchs game the other night, and I met a lot of people from Berlin. Usually I meet them on the ice, and it wasn't very pleasant. But last night was pleasant. Nice job, John. Way to go. I'd like to thank Peter Marr for sponsoring my grandfather to get him into this event. It takes a lot of work to get there, and thanks, Peter. I would also like to have special thanks for Jim Hayes, wherever he is. He held my hand through this entire process. It's a logistical nightmare. I have probably 50 questions I asked him. I asked a lot of questions. So he bared with me, and everything was great. A few years ago, Tommy Moulton stopped into my office and started talking hockey. And he started talking about the Jim Houston tournament, which is a big tournament in Exeter. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why is he telling me this? Okay? Yeah, we played in that. But then he told me that he just left a meeting for this group. And I said, New Hampshire Legends? I've never heard of that. He leaves the office, I Google it, and I say, oh, this would be a great venue to share with hockey enthusiasts my grandfather's journey. There was no doubt about it, so I got the ball rolling. So let me begin by saying I spent a lot of time doing the research on this, through scrapbooks, through internet research, through talking with people, because he was born in 1903, so I really couldn't go and talk with him. So let me just say that I'll start with this. George Fuzzy Thurston, a native of Exeter, born in 1903, started his hockey career skating on the Exeter River. And they started the first Exeter Hockey Club. And from there, he would eventually go on to play hockey for many championship teams. He was awarded the Amateur Defensive Player of the Year multiple times, not just once, multiple times, while he played for the Amesbury Maples. He would be part of the Boston Olympic team that traveled to Europe for a 2-month tour. As for coaching, during the early 1930s, he became the assistant coach at Phillips Exeter for 2 years, and then he went on to eventually coach the UNH Wildcats for a year. Now, in order to put things into perspective, I could list off all these teams, but none of us would even know who they were. So we're going to put something up on the screen that shows like a timeline of not only his career, but about the history of hockey and the United States. So I'm sure it's all up there on the screen, right, Mark? Okay. So in 1917, the NHL was established, but it wasn't the U.S. that established it. It was in Canada. There are, I think, five franchises there, all Canadians. I always thought it was the original 6, but that's not the case. In 1924 is when the Boston Bruins first entered the NHL, and they were the first team in the U.S. Now, between 1926 and 1936, you had the Canadian American Hockey League, which is the ancestor of the AHL. Consisted between 5 to 6 teams, which included the Boston Bruins Cubs and the New York Bronx Tigers. Now, I threw this other thing in here about Charles Lindbergh, because that's going to become important. Everybody knows him, but that was in 1927. Then we had the Great Depression, 1929 to 1937. And those were the years when my grandfather's hockey career took off. Okay, so you got to understand, the economy was down in the dumps in 1932. That was the bottom. So in 1930 to 1931, the West Point Nashua Hockey Club team went on to win the Amateur Hockey League Championship in New England, and then went on to be the runner-ups in the national tournament. And that's the one my grandfather played on. In 1931, the Bronx Tigers switched from the Canadian American League and went on to the Eastern Hockey League, EHL, from 1933 to 1934. 1932, FDR, the New Deal, tried to bring the economy up. Now, if people aren't making money, they're not going to hockey games, right? So a lot of teams maybe faltered in that time. So in 1932, he got an offer to try out for the Boston Bruins Cubs team. When he went to Boston, he tried out, but the roster was full. So they said, hey, we would like you to go join the Boston Olympic team. And so he got a pass from the Maples to go and join the Boston Olympic team. They went on to travel by steamship, which is why Lindbergh is important, because I couldn't figure out why they would take a steamship from Boston to Paris. There were no planes flying there. That didn't really start till 1933 with the modern day airlines as we know them. So they went on to the Boston Olympic team with 9 players, which included a goaltender, and they played against Germany, France, England, Switzerland, and Sweden. The coach was Walter Brown. I think most people know who Walter Brown is. Walter Brown Arena, BU. He used to own the Celtics and the Boston Bruins. So they went on their tour to Boston. A couple highlights from that. When they played Germany, they beat them twice. And at that game, Adolf Hitler was there, but he was not chancellor yet. It was the year before he was chancellor. And the German captain, after the game, came up to my grandfather, and he wanted his hat. He played hockey with a baseball cap. So the German captain traded him his eagle, the German eagle, for his baseball cap. And that's the way that story went. Also, while he was on tour, in Switzerland, he went to dinner with, what's her name? Sonia Henne, yeah. Who was she? I don't think many people know who she was. Well, at that time, she had won 2 Olympic figure skating championships and went on to win a 3rd in 1936 and became a 10-time world champion figure skater. So he was around some pretty important people at the time. So then he gets back from the tour and he turns down the chance to play with the Boston Bruins Cubs. Now, when I was a kid, I was like, why would you do that? And he said, well, the rumor had it that his wife didn't want him to travel anymore. Well, then I found out they both went to New York, and he played for the Bronx Tigers in the AHL for a year. So then he came back, and then she said no more traveling. So after that, he continued playing with the Maples. Then he went on to mentor the UNH freshman hockey team. And then in 1939, he became the head coach for the UNH hockey team, selected by Carl Lundholm, who those of you who know UNH, it's the Lundholm Gym. And he coached there for a year. And his first game was against the Terriers. And the headline in the paper, it was the Terriers meet Thurston men. It wasn't the Terriers meet UNH Wildcats. So it was pretty cool. What happened was, since he didn't have a college degree, they wouldn't let him coach the next year. I'm not sure why they didn't find out prior, but at least we got that in here. So then again in 1940, played for the Maples, continued playing, and just went, and they won the 1939-1940 NEAA AAA championship title. He started refereeing in 1953, and he played his last game, which is fitting, at Phillips Exeter Academy. And he was the MVP of that game at 66. Then again, the NHL doubled in size in 1967, and today there's 31 teams. So, in closing, I would just like to say that not only did he have the skating ability, but he worked hard on and off the ice. He was a mason and a plasterer. Now think about it, it was during the Depression. You're not making any money playing hockey. So he was a mason, they made money, and he's doing plastering. So his arm strength was incredibly strong. He used to buy his hockey sticks a year in advance so that they would dry out in the summertime because he was so strong that he would snap them in the shaft. It wasn't like they were taking slap shots back then. He was taking wrist shots, and he would snap them. So he was a really strong individual. Like was mentioned earlier, in Exeter he was known as Mr. Hockey. He became good friends with Jim Houston, who is also a Hall of Famer, who started the youth hockey in Exeter. And you know, what I can say is hockey was my grandfather's passion. And he once told me, if you didn't like doing something, then you'll never be great at it. And that is the truth. If you don't like something, you're never going to be great at it. And that's something that goes through life. So as a kid, I heard all his stories. I knew how passionate he was. I was fortunate to be the oldest grandson, so I heard them all. And I could repeat them, but he really did love the game. So, as you can see, history has proven it, that he was great at it. So I hope you all enjoyed this journey I just set you on, and I hope I did it justice. Thank you.
That was quite the history lesson.
Thank you very much. Back when I was coaching and I went up to Berlin, New Hampshire to recruit Frankie Roy, I became very friendly with Frankie's dad. Mr. Roy was a historian of Berlin hockey. He knew everybody who played in Berlin. And when I would talk to him about recruiting Frankie and how good a player I thought Frankie was, Mr. Roy always said, yeah, but you should have seen Roger Letourneau. Roger Letourneau was really a player. And what a record he had. Coming to Berlin High School in the fall of 1965, he played 12 games and heading into the state tournament for Berlin High School. In those 12 games, 14 goals, 5 assists. 1966-67, 42 goals. MVP of the New England tournament. Was on the ice the last 10 minutes of the game against St. Dom's in Lewiston. After a year at New Prep in Cambridge, he played for the Berlin Maroons the latter half of the 67 season. And in 16 games, he had 34 goals and 12 assists. He was a great player. Not only was he a great player for Berlin High and the Maroons, but he was also a great player in the New England Hockey League. And in the New England Hockey League, he played 136 games, so 112 goals, and he had 208 total points. Whenever you talk about great players in Berlin, and you come up with a list, Roger Letourneau's name is on the list. Roger Letourneau's award will be received tonight by Roger Letourneau. Mr. Roy, up to you.
Good afternoon. I prepared a little speech that I'm going to read you. But first, I would like to thank the host, Mr. Norton, for presenting me. That was a really nice introduction and also a good reminder for all of my humble contribution in the sport of hockey in New Hampshire. So let me start by telling you a little story. The last time I made a speech in front of a crowd was 50 years ago. I was nervous then. I was looking for the right words. I can assure you now that 50 years later, not much has changed. I am still nervous and looking for my words. That famous speech was given to a Berlin High School audience that had sort of a twisted mind. I was asked to describe my tying goal in the final second of the New England Hockey Championship game. The kids in the audience had a good laugh at me. When they heard me talk about the fact that when the goaltender opened his legs, I saw a hole. All these kids. But all kidding aside, I want you all to know that I was not expecting today's honor at all. But that it means a lot to me to be entering the New Hampshire Legend of Hockey Hall of Fame. One major reason I am standing here today is the fact that one day I met Coach Parker. Bruce paved the way for me, played a critical role in me coming to Berlin High School to play not only hockey, but also baseball. Bruce, not only were you a good math teacher, you were by far the best coach I got to play for. I want to thank you for all that you have done for me, for your support and the memories. Thanks to you, I was able to meet a lot of good persons, play with great players, and win some championships along the way. My favorite personal highlight remained winning the New England Hockey Championship in '67. I was voted the MVP of that tournament and got to deliver my famous speech when we got back to the Berlin High School. I realize we have come a long way from that chance meeting in Quaticook back in '65, and that's some 50 years later, I can still call you my friend. Also, I see a lot of smiling faces out there that I would like to thank, starting with my beautiful wife, Lise, my son, Paul, family and friends that drove down from Canada and Ohio to be here with me today. It really means a lot for me to be able to share this with all of you. In closing, if the kids in the audience for my famous speech were here today, I would be glad to tell them that this time I practiced my speech early this morning, delivered my speech in the afternoon, and that at my age, as I tell my wife to do it twice in the same day, makes me really proud. Once again, thank you all.
Good job. Good job. That was terrific. Good job. Just bring over here and take a picture. One here. You gotta stand over here by the, there you go. You hold that. Watch that. Thanks again. I think it'd be appropriate, since he's been mentioned a couple times tonight by his certainly by Roger. I think the coaches of some of these players, some of them are not here anymore, but certainly Bruce is. And I'd like to introduce, just to stand and take a bow, Roger's coach at Berlin High, Bruce Parker. Bruce, please stand. The game of hockey needs builders, those people who support the game by fundraising support in youth hockey, those who support the game by helping purchase equipment, those who support the game in any number of ways. Clarence Lassard of Berlin, New Hampshire, was a builder extraordinaire. He was an integral part and a fundamental part of not only the building of the Berlin Maroons, but the entire existence and construction and reconstruction of Notre Dame Arena. When you're looking at somebody who had an effect on the lives of young kids, not a coach, but somebody who made sure that the program was there for the youngsters of Berlin to play in. Not a lot of opportunities in Berlin, particularly during the Depression time and after the Depression. But those opportunities were found by Clarence Lassard and provided by the kids of Berlin. He also had an impact on the New England level. He served as a director for the New England Amateur Hockey Association and later as a lifetime director of NHLOH. One of the extraordinary builders in our state's hockey history, and certainly in the history of the town of Berlin, Clarence Lassard. His award will be received by his son, Pierre Lassard. Pierre?
On behalf of my father, I want to start by thanking the Coos County Moffett House Museum for doing countless hours of research to make all this possible. And I want to thank the Legends of Hockey. Here we are 46 years after my dad passed, and you folks are recognizing him today, still remember the things he did. Thank you. What is a builder? A builder that is a guy that does everything that needs to be done. We need some sticks, I'll buy some. Ice time, I'll buy some. We got a couple players got no job this summer. I'll get them a job. We got some players have no place to stay this year while they're playing. I'll get them a place to stay. He had the ability to bring out the best in people. He showed everybody respect. I learned this at his knee. I used to ride in the car with him to the construction sites. He took everyone at face value. He trusted everyone.